Okay, you know that exam question? The one that asks you to sketch out the entire business intelligence framework and your mind just goes blank? Yeah, we've all been there. So in this explainer, we are going to build, piece by piece, the perfect, top-grade answer to that exact question, using a simple story that you won't forget even under pressure.
So here it is, the classic 15-mark question. You can almost feel the clock ticking, right? Now, the secret here isn't just about listing the components. Anyone can do that. To get top marks, you've got to show the flow. You need to tell the story of how raw, useless data gets transformed into a powerful decision. And that's exactly what we're about to do. And to make this whole thing stick in your brain, we're going to frame it as a story. I call it the data journey. Seriously, just think of data as this raw material, like iron ore, that goes on an incredible journey. It gets refined and reshaped at each stage until it finally becomes something polished, valuable, and ready to move a business forward.
All right, here's our map for the journey. We'll start where the data is born, at the sources. Then we'll take it through the refinery, get it organized in a massive data library, ask it some really tough questions in the analytics engine, and finally, watch it turn into real-world action. Let's get started.
Okay, layer 1, raw data sources. Everything starts here. This is the foundation. You can't build anything without the raw material, and in our world, that's the data itself. Now, right off the bat, here's a distinction that examiners absolutely love to see. You need to show that you understand data comes from two totally different worlds. First, you have your internal sources. This is the stuff your company creates every day. Sales numbers from the CRM, inventory levels from the ERP, maybe even a bunch of messy Excel files. But then you've also got external sources. This is data from the outside world that gives you context, things like social media trends, competitor pricing, or government economic data. A really great answer points out that the big challenge here is handling all that variety.
So, we have all this raw data, and let's be honest, it's a total mess. It's inconsistent, it's full of errors, and it's in a dozen different formats. It's not useful yet. It has to go into what I call the refinery. This is layer 2, the data preparation stage.
And here's your first big keyword. You absolutely, positively have to have this in your answer. ETL. It stands for Extract, Transform, and Load. For an examiner, seeing this acronym defined correctly is like a big green checkmark. It tells them you know what you're talking about. So let's break it down. It's pretty logical. First, you extract the data. You're just pulling it in from all those internal and external sources we talked about. Next, and this is the most important part, you transform it. This is where the magic happens. You're cleaning it, fixing errors, making sure dates are in the same format. You're making it consistent. And finally, you load it. You're just writing that beautifully clean data into its new home where it'll be stored. And this quote right here is exactly why that transform step is the hero of our story. You've all heard it, garbage in, garbage out. It doesn't matter how fancy your BI system is, if you feed it junk data, you're gonna get junk insights. The ETL process, especially that transform step, is the quality control that stops that from happening.
Okay, so our data is now clean, reliable, and ready to go. So, where does it go? Welcome to Layer 3, Centralized Data Storage. You can think of this as a huge, organized library where all our trustworthy information is neatly cataloged and waiting to be checked out.
And the main term you need for this layer is the data warehouse. If you really want to show off, use the classic definition. Say that it's subject-oriented, integrated, time-variant, and non-volatile. All that really means is that it's the company's single source of truth. It's one central place for all historical data, and it's built specifically for analysis, not for running the day-to-day business.
Now here's a little pro tip for getting those extra marks. Briefly mention the difference between a data warehouse and a more modern concept, the data lake. Here's the easiest way to think about it. A data warehouse is like a pristine library of bottled water. It's been filtered, processed, and is ready to drink. A data lake is, well, it's a lake. It has everything in its raw, natural state. You can do more with it, but you have to filter it yourself. Mentioning this distinction shows you're up to date.
So, we've got all this clean, organized data sitting pretty in our warehouse. Now it's time to put it to work. We're at Layer 4, the analytics engine. This is the brain of the whole BI framework. This is where we stop just storing data and start asking it questions to find the gold hidden inside.
In your answer, you can't just say analytics. You need to show the different levels. Think of it like climbing a ladder of value. On the bottom rung, you have descriptive analytics. That's just asking, what happened? Like looking at last quarter's sales. A step up, you get diagnostic analytics, which asks, why did it happen? Maybe sales dip because of a competitor's campaign. Then you get really powerful. You have predictive analytics, asking what will happen, like forecasting which customers are about to leave. And at the very top, the holy grail, prescriptive analytics, which tells you, what should we do about it? Using these 4 levels will make your answers stand out. Guaranteed.
We are so close to the end of our journey. We found these amazing insights, but they're completely worthless if they're just trapped in a spreadsheet on some analyst's computer. Layers 5 and 6 are all about the final step, getting those insights to the people who can actually use them.
Layer 5 is all about visualization and BI tools. Think of things like Tableau or Power BI. Their job is to turn all those numbers into something a human can understand in seconds. Charts, graphs, maps. The absolute star of this layer is the dashboard. A good dashboard shows a manager all their key performance indicators, their KPIs, at a glance. This creates something called self-service BI, which basically means people can explore the data and answer their own questions without needing to call the IT department. And that brings us to the final destination. Layer 6, the entire point of this whole framework, the actionable insight. An insight is not just an interesting fact. It's a conclusion from data that is so clear, so specific, that it points directly to a decision you should make. Never forget this. Every part of this journey, from collecting raw data to building dashboards, exists only to produce this one thing. So, let's do a super quick recap of the data journey. Ready? It starts with the raw material from different sources. It's cleaned up through the ETL process. It's organized in a central storage location like a data warehouse. It's questioned by the analytics engine, it's made easy to understand through visualization, and finally, it's used to drive action. That's the 6-step story you need to tell. So I'll leave you with this final thought. Now that you know the perfect framework on paper, which layer do you think is the weakest link in the real world? Where does this beautiful process usually break down? Thinking about that is what separates a good student from a great one. So keep that in mind. Nail that structure, and you're going to ace this question. Good luck.